Welcome to Startup Smart. My name is Hannah Bretz. I am a consultant with the Small Business Development Center. I am also the owner of Raven Marketing, and my specialty is to provide digital marketing, website design, and artificial intelligence guidance to our small business clients. Tonight's presentation is one of my favorites. I wish I had had it when I was starting my first business. We're going to go over all of the um, all of the 30,000 foot view things that you should consider as you're getting ready to start your business. So hopefully it will help you in your business planning, or maybe if you've already started a business, it will help you think of some things that maybe you hadn't covered as you started your business. But hopefully you'll get some information that'll help you on your small business journey.
Well,
So this presentation is sponsored by the Small Business Development Center. We provide high quality, confidential, one-on-one consulting. We provide access to capital, lots of training courses and resources to empower new and existing businesses. So when you become a client of the SBDC, you have access to guidance from a team of experienced business professionals, access to capital and training and more. I like to say we're the best kept secret in the small business world. I am one of 12 consultants on our team in South Central Minnesota, and we all specialize in something different. We have startup assistance consultants, business planning, financial assistance and access to capital, people that help our clients apply for loans, cash flow management. We have a bookkeeping consultant, human resources, and some people that help with exports and business valuations. So when you become a client, you really have access to an entire team of professional small business owners who have, decades of experience combined, and you are able to meet with as many of us as you want to identify those particular areas that you need help. And hopefully that interaction with us will help ease your journey on your small business start. Okay, so like I said before, we're going to review the key steps of starting, managing, and growing a business. We're going to cover how you can turn your skills, ideas, and passion into successful businesses. We're going to go over things like writing a business plan, conducting market research, getting funding for your business, meeting your legal obligations, and more. So let's start with talking about what a small business is. There's lots of different definitions, but generally the Small Business Administration defines a small business as a legally recognized business entity with fewer than 500 employees that makes less than 40 million in revenue per year. So you can see how a lot of businesses are considered small businesses, and we present a major part of the economy. So that's why programs like the SBDC exist to help small business owners and help make sure that this very crucial part of our economy is healthy and strong. A couple of small business facts. So currently there are over 33 million small businesses in the United States. Over one half of the United States workforce is employed by small businesses. 7 million new jobs were added by small businesses between 2021 and 2022. 45% of the US gross domestic product is tied to small businesses. 99.9% of businesses in the United States are classified as small businesses. 21% of small businesses are minority owned. 43% of small businesses are owned by women. Gen X owns the majority of small businesses. That would be ages 41 to 56. And 67 cents of every $1 spent at small businesses stays local. So it's a bummer to talk about the reasons that businesses fail, but I also think it's a really good thing to go over because if you identify the key issues that tend to stall business growth or make it hard to stay in business, I think it helps you plan for the future and make sure that you're prepared for whatever might come your way. The number one reasons that businesses fail always has to do with cash flow and money management. What often happens with small businesses is they get started. Maybe the first year they have funding and cash flow and they're doing great, but at some point they run out of opportunities for business credit or cash, and they're not able to grow because they've run out of cash to operate their business. So that's typically where we see the majority of businesses fail, would be that 1 to 3 years. And there are things you can do to make sure that you are adequately budgeting for your small business operation, making sure that you're paying your taxes in the correct way, seeking support from outside resources like the SBDC, making sure that you're keeping your business and personal bank accounts separate, finding new opportunities for business credit, making sure you have a solid business plan, and making sure you have the experience or the knowledge or have access to people who have experience or knowledge so that you can avoid some of these major pitfalls. I think I have the best job in the world because I get to talk to and hang out with entrepreneurs all the time. And I feel like we have some really cool personality traits that kind of define who we are. And so, just a couple of the things that I think are really cool about entrepreneurs is that we tend to be disciplined, self-aware, empathetic, motivated. We're risk takers, passionate, creative, resourceful, good communicators, flexible, resilient, and optimistic. Starting a small business is a risk, right? So, the people who take that risk and who follow their passion, I think, are really inspiring people to be around. When I first meet with a client, I like to start with what is your why? So, in order to make sure that your business idea or your business plan matches with your personal lifestyle and your personal goals, it's really great to identify why it is that you want to start a business. So, a lot of people want to start a business to generate money and grow wealth. And that's a great reason to start a business. Other people want the flexibility of being able to make their own schedule. Some people want to leave a legacy to pass on to family. Some people are serving a need in their community where they've identified something that their community needs and they've decided they want to fill that need with their business's products or services. So, just as an example, my why has changed over the years based on changes that have happened in my life and my lifestyle. My first business was a baking mix company. I was, I really started out of that passion and that community need. Why? I have food allergies and I wanted to eat baked goods that didn't have gluten, dairy, and soy and sugar in them. So I created these recipes and identified that I needed to make them into a baking mix in order to sell them online and get my product out on a national level. And at the time, I was working a full-time job. I was manufacturing my products in the middle of the night in a restaurant kitchen that I was renting. And I was young, so I had the energy and the stamina to be able to do that. Eventually, though, I ended up having a baby and I have some health issues that I needed to address. And so I ended up selling that business because it was no longer compatible with my lifestyle. And now I am a single mom. I still have some chronic health issues, and my job as a business consultant And a website designer allows me to be really flexible. I can make my own schedule. I can take care of my kiddo when she's sick. And if I need a day off, I can, take a personal day and focus on me for a little bit. So you can see how as things change throughout your life, your why for being a business owner might change. But especially in the beginning, I think it's really important to identify why it is you want to start a business before you start your business plan, or factor that in as you are building your business plan, just so that you make sure that the business is a good fit for you and that you will be able to stick with it and see it through to be a successful business. Are you ready? Do you have what it takes to be a small business owner? So ask yourself, are you determined enough to meet your goals? Do you have the personal discipline? Are you comfortable with handling disappointment? Do you have a support network? Are you comfortable with uncertainty? And do you feel ready to start a business? At the SBDC, when we work with our clients, we always recommend they work on a business plan. And the business plan is really the foundation of your business. It's how you will structure, run, and grow your business. If you are planning to apply for a business loan with a bank, you absolutely will need a business plan that has financial information like cash flow projections and funding needs and things like that. But it's also great to have a business plan just so that you have a roadmap for what it is that you need to do in order to start and run your business. So, what kind of a business plan are you going to need? If you're starting a business from scratch, you will need to write your own business plan that will show how you will start and manage it. If you're buying an existing business, they may have an existing business plan, or you will write your own to show how you plan to operate it. And if you happen to be buying into a franchise, they will likely have a business plan for you to adjust to your own region and your own community. There are lots of elements and sections in a business plan, but these are some of the key sections that we'll talk about tonight. The first is your offering. So that's your product or service. What is it that you're going to be selling? Your financial projections, that's all the numbers. That's where you're going to show how money is going to come into your business and how money is going to go out of your business. You'll look at all the income and the expenses. So that's really where you develop the financial structure that is going to operate and grow your business. You're going to have some marketing strategy in there, and that's going to help determine your brand and who your target audience is and how you plan to reach them. And then you're also going to have a section on operations, which identifies key personnel or job roles that will help define who's going to be involved in your business and how it will be operated. So, market research is when you identify the current market conditions, you do some competitive analysis, and you plan for a marketing plan to reach your target audience. So, there's some questions that are great to start with when you are doing market research. Again, what is your product offering? What is it that you're going to sell? What will it do? How will people find out about it? And who is going to buy it? How much are they willing to pay for it? And this is a big one. What problem does your product or service solve? So most people will make a purchase when they have a problem that they need solved. So like if I'm going to start running again, but I don't have a good pair of running shoes, that's a problem. And so I will go look to buy a pair of running shoes to solve that problem for myself. So when you think about your products and services as a solution for your customers' problems, then you can really get yourself into that marketing strategy mindset and think about how your business is going to impact your target audience. And then you're going to need to do a competitive comparison to see how your product or service is different from what currently exists in the market. All right, understanding the competition. This is really, really important because you don't want to go into a environment or a market share where you're not aware of who is already in that market and providing the same product or service. So you need to identify what other businesses are doing the things that your business is going to do. You want to determine how much they are pricing their products or services. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Can you determine who their customers are based on like social media followers or marketing messaging that they put out there? And what different types of customers are they targeting? You might have one solid target audience, or you might have several target audiences. It depends on what product or service you're providing. And the more information you can get about a target audience, the more likely it is you'll be successful selling to them. Marketing strategy is key. It's great to start a business, but if you can't reach your customers, then you're not going to be in business for very long. So, really go back to that target audience. I always say every marketing strategy starts with the target audience. Who is it that you're targeting? What are their problems and how will your business solve them? How are your customers going to find out about your business? What types of marketing channels are you going to use to reach your customers? For example, are you going to have a website? Are you going to have social media channels? If you're going to have social media channels, which ones? You know, is your target audience of a certain demographic that might spend most of their time on Facebook or TikTok? Are you going to have video content because YouTube is the most used social media platform? Um, are you going to be on LinkedIn because you're selling a professional service? Are you going to do newspaper advertisements or radio advertisements? Are you going to take out digital ads on Google? All of these different ways that you can reach your audience, you're going to want to have a plan for that, and you're going to want to have a budget for how much you're going to spend on marketing, both on what it'll cost to pay for a website hosting, but also are you going to allocate money for advertising on an ongoing basis? And if you're interested in learning more about all of this stuff, this is kind of my forte. So I'd be happy to have a meeting with you to go over your specific business and how we might be able to develop a marketing strategy to help you reach your customers. Let's talk about some numbers now. We're going to talk about expenses, and there's two types of costs that I want to cover. The first group is called overhead costs, and these are one-time startup costs that you need in order to launch your business. I also think of them as day one costs. So if you're planning on opening your store on Thursday, how much money are you going to need to spend in order to open your store on day one? Oftentimes, for retail businesses, that'll include paying for starting inventory or parts and materials. You'll need attorney's fees in order to file your business registration with the state. There might be permits or licenses that you need to pay for before you start your business. If you're going to lease or rent a space, you might need to put money down for that. If you need to remodel a space, you know, those construction costs will go into your overhead. Purchasing office furniture, hiring a designer to make a logo or a website, any office equipment or supplies you might need for your business. These are your overhead costs, and these are what you're going to want to plan for and include in your business plan. The second type of costs are variable costs, and these are ongoing or recurring costs that need to be paid regularly, usually on a monthly basis. So these might include salaries for staff and employees, any ongoing legal fees or accounting fees, ongoing rent or lease payments, paying for inventory, utilities, advertising, website hosting, if you have any dues or subscriptions that you need to pay to be in business, and just general supplies. So, most of us will need some kind of funding to get started with our business, and the business plan will help you figure out how much money you're going to need to start. So, if you don't have that amount of money on hand, you'll either need to raise or borrow that capital. The easiest way to fund a business is through your own savings, money that you have saved yourself. There are other options like getting money from investors who might get a share of your business. That's like the Shark Tank situation. You could borrow money from family or friends. You could borrow against a personal line of credit or a credit card, although I don't generally recommend that because interest rates on lines of credit and credit cards tend to be quite high, and you can get a much better um, interest rate and terms of a loan if you do a business loan through a bank. So we'll talk more about that in just a second. There are microloans that can be borrowed from economic development organizations for businesses that need less than $25,000 generally. Here in our area, the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation is over in Owatonna, and they do microloans for their clients. Also, you might find local funds where cities or states have invested money or loans for local businesses. This was definitely the case during COVID when a lot of businesses were struggling to stay open. The state and the federal government created those PPP loans to help keep businesses afloat, as well as some cities invested in loans for local businesses so that they could stay open during the pandemic. Bank loans are generally thought to be the best way to fund a business. Bank loans can be supported by the Small Business Administration, where the SBA provides a guarantee to pay back the loan. We help our clients get SBA backed loans. There's also local resources for what's called gap financing. So what that means is, let's say you need $100,000 to start and run your business for the next year. You are going to put $40,000 of your own savings in. A bank has agreed to pay another $40,000, and to fill the gap of the $20,000 you need, an organization like the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation might step in and fill the gap by loaning that $20,000. So there's lots of different ways you can piece together funding for your business. If you are interested in learning more about ways you might fund your business, I highly recommend you meet with one of our financial advisors. They are very experienced with loan applications. They know banks. They know different economic development organizations that might be able to help out. Don't go it alone because there are people here that are ready to help you. And yeah, I think this is one of the coolest things about what we do. There's different types of bank loans that serve different purposes and have different repayment plans. A term loan is a fixed amount of money that you'll pay back during a specified period of time. That's similar to a mortgage where maybe you have a 10-year term loan and you'll have to pay a certain amount back over time. A line of credit allows you to borrow up to a maximum amount of money. repay some of it, and then borrow more back to the maximum loan amount. This is a really great funding structure for businesses that regularly buy inventory because when you need to buy your inventory to make the widgets or resell, then you're going to need that cash flow that the line of credit provides. And then once you sell that inventory, you're able to pay down that line of credit. So that's a really great one for our retail businesses. So make sure that you think about what kind of funding you're going to need and what kinds of terms you might need for your loan. And a bank might help you figure that out as well. You should make sure you understand exactly what your business will need in a loan. So that's where that business plan comes in. Make sure that your financial projections and your cash flow projections are rock solid. Determine how much your business really needs. Think about the short term and the long term. Um, how much are you going to need to stay afloat in the first year? And then think about what your long-term needs are going to be. Again, it all goes back to those financial projections, and bankers are going to want to see that you're aware of and understand your financial needs. That's going to win them over and make it more likely that they will agree to fund your business. When you're getting ready to start a business, it's really important to financially prepare yourself. So make sure that you limit new debt. Don't go out and buy a brand new pickup truck right before you're planning to start a business. Start saving money, get your personal finances in order, start living on less. Budget by the month and track your expenses. That's a huge part of business ownership. So if you can do it in your personal life, that will get you prepared for doing it in your business. Determine how much money you need to live for 6 months and think about if you can continue to work for stability while you start your business. So, can you make this business your side hustle? And a lot of my clients will work full time and then start their business on the side in order to have that financial stability. And as well as I found that people who have financial stability from a different revenue source tend to make more educated and confident business decisions because they're not relying on the new business to bring in income for them to live off of. So one thing to think about and determine if that might work for you. Before you approach a bank lender, you should think about the characteristics that a banker is going to look for before they agree to loan money to a business owner. We call these the 5 C's of credit worthiness. The first is character, the general impression that you make, and your trustworthiness. Capital, savings, investments, or assets you have that can help repay your loan. Capacity, are you able to comfortably afford your payments? Have you factored that into your business plan's financial projections? And can you show a banker that you're going to be able to afford your loan payments? Conditions, how do you plan to use the money? What is the current situation in the market? Is it a good time to start your business in your industry? All those things will factor into the conditions. And collateral. Do you have something you can guarantee or pledge to repay the loan? Shifting gears a little bit, let's go into choosing a name for your business. This is a really, really important part of planning and starting a business. Your name is going to impact the way that customers perceive your business. It's also the way that people are going to find your business. And there's also some legal things you need to consider when you're choosing a name. So the first thing you should do is research your chosen business name. Search the Minnesota Secretary of State's business filing records to see if someone else has already registered that name as a business in Minnesota. If someone already has that name registered in the state, you are not able to file that name. So you'll have to come up with a different name. But even if no one in the state of Minnesota is using that brand name, do a Google search, find out if there's other businesses in the United States that may be using that same name or a similar name. Search the Federal Trademark Database, which is free online. You can look to see if there's any trademarks on your chosen business name. Make sure you Google it, see if it's being used by other businesses, but also see what kind of online competition you might have when people are searching for your product or service. Um, think about how easy it will be for people to find your business with your chosen name. And I'll give you a couple of examples of why this is so important. So the first one is when I first started my first business, I came up with a really whimsical, creative name that didn't really mean anything, but I'm kind of creative and whimsical, and I thought it would be fun. So I told a friend of mine what my business name was, and he said, Hannah, I have no idea what it is that your business does. That tells me nothing about your business, and maybe you should think about something else. And so I said, okay, well, I could do something really boring like Paleo Baking Company because my product was baking mixes for people on the paleo diet. And my friend was like, that's perfect. I totally get what your business does with that business name. So then down the road, I realized that people who are looking for my product or something like my product, they're going to Google and literally typing in Paleo Baking Company and they're finding my business. It's the first search result when they type that into Google. So I inadvertently picked the top search term for my business, which I wish I could say was totally planned, but it totally wasn't. And I'm not suggesting that you're all going to be able to choose the top search term for your business as your name, but just something to think about when you're thinking about how people are going to be able to find your business with your chosen name. And then another scenario that I like to tell people is about the importance of making sure your name is unique. Um, there's a gentleman here in the state of Minnesota who makes this amazing salsa. He's traveled the country and won all these salsa awards. I've had it. It's great. His mango salsa is just fabulous. Um, but he chose a business name that another salsa company in Texas was using. And at some point, the business in Texas sent a cease and desist letter to my friend here in Minnesota and said, you are using our brand name. You need to stop. This is ours, and you need to choose a different name. Well, he decided to fight it, so they went to court, and the judge decided that the business in Texas was going to win that lawsuit because they had been in business longer, doing business using that business name longer. So my friend, unfortunately, had to choose a new name. He had to completely redo his website, all of his labels. He had to do all new marketing, flyers and banners and signage and everything. And he lost all of that credibility from those national salsa awards he won because those were won under his old business name. So I'm not saying you 100% don't want to choose a name that's similar to a name that somebody else has because there's a lot of competition out there for good business names, but just some things to think about as you're researching your chosen business name. So picking your business location is also very important, especially if you have a retail brick and mortar business, or if you're launching an online store. The choices that you make about your location will affect your taxes and your legal requirements. So, for example, if you have a business in Mankato, you're probably going to be responsible for collecting and paying sales tax based on your location in Mankato. Um, but if you have an online business, you are also responsible for paying taxes in the states that you have what's called a nexus, either a physical location or a economic nexus presence. And that sounds complicated, but really what it means is if I'm located in Minnesota, then I have to collect sales taxes and remit them to the state of Minnesota. If I have a production facility in Wisconsin, I also have to collect sales taxes and remit them to the state of Wisconsin. But if I sell more than $100,000 in Nevada, their economic nexus is selling over $100,000 or like uh, I'm making these statistics up, but they have a threshold of the amount, the number of orders you can have, or the amount of money you can sell in a state in order to be considered having an economic nexus or an economic presence in that state. And then when that happens, you have to collect taxes in that state and then give them to the state of Nevada. So it used to be where if you had an online business, you didn't necessarily need to worry so much about what your location was, but um, there was a big lawsuit between South Dakota and Wayfair like 8 years ago, and South Dakota won and determined that online businesses needed to collect and remit sales taxes. So whether you're have a brick and mortar business or an online business, making sure you understand all of the implications of your location is really important. All right, everybody's favorite topic, legal structures. I'm not being sarcastic, by the way. People are really interested in learning how to legally structure their businesses. So we're going to go over four that are kind of the four top legal structures that I see from my clients. There's other types of legal structures, but these are kind of the big ones. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each of them. So the first one we're going to talk about is a sole proprietorship. And that's essentially when you are doing business as yourself personally. So it's an unincorporated business. Maybe you're selling things at a farmer's market or a craft expo or something, and um, you're collecting money from products that you sell, and you're depositing them straight into your personal checking. That means you have a sole proprietorship. You don't necessarily need to file that in order to have a sole proprietorship, but that is what constitutes a sole proprietorship. Now, the benefits are because you are collecting that revenue you're making and putting it right into your personal checking account, you are not going to get taxed twice. So it's not like your business has to pay taxes and then you have to pay taxes on the income that you take from your business. That money flows through to you and you claim that income on your personal tax return. One of the risks of having a sole proprietorship is that legally you and your business are one and the same. So if something happens and someone sues your business, they're actually suing you, and all of your personal assets can be forfeit in a lawsuit settlement. So they can take money in your bank accounts, they can take your car, they can take assets out of your home, your mortgage, they can take all the physical property that you have. So if you have a very, very low risk business, a sole proprietorship might be something you want to consider. I personally, it's too risky for my taste, so I would not choose it for myself, but some people choose to do that maybe when they're starting out before they are able to file a different legal structure, but pros and cons. The next one I want to talk about is a corporation, and that is a legal business entity that is completely separate from its owners. So a corporation can make a profit, be taxed, and held legally liable. This offers the strongest protection to its owners from personal liability because the business is a completely separate legal entity. Um, so you'd file its own corporate tax return. Now, it's great because you have that liability shield, but you have to pay taxes on the corporate tax return. And then you are considered an employee of your business. So then any income you make from that business, you will also be taxed on your personal tax return. So good liability shield, tax twice. All right, everybody's favorite legal structure. I'd say 99% of my clients have a limited liability company or an LLC. It's the one most people are familiar with. There's a reason it's very popular. It offers that personal liability protection like a corporation, but the taxes pass through the business and you claim those on your personal tax return. So as long as you are treating your LLC like it's a separate business, you have some liability shield protection if something were to happen. Now, you must operate your business as though it is a separate legal entity. And what that means is, as soon as you file that LLC, you need to take your paperwork to a bank and open a business checking account. And then from there on, all of the income and expenses from your business have to go through that business checking account. And you do not commingle your income and expenses with your personal checking account. Because what might happen is if you're in a settlement situation in a lawsuit, even if you have an LLC, a judge might say, well, you're operating this like a sole proprietorship because you're taking the money in from your business and it's going directly into your personal checking, or you are using your business account to pay for personal expenses. So we call that piercing the veil. That's when you have an LLC, but you are piercing that veil of liability shield. And so you might be determined, a judge might decide you're a sole proprietor and all your assets, your personal assets, could be forfeit in a settlement. So LLC, it's kind of like the just right legal structure for most businesses, most small businesses, but you have to make sure you operate it as though it is a separate legal entity. And then the last one I want to just touch on is a general or limited partnership. This is very similar to an LLC, but you're going to have multiple partners, meaning that like attorneys, law firms tend to have partners. Sometimes dentist offices do. There's certain types of businesses that might benefit from a general or limited partnership. Generally, the LLC fits the majority of the businesses that I work with, but that's the big four that I wanted to cover. And we always recommend that you meet with a business attorney before you file a legal structure with the Secretary of State's office, just so that you know. Well, and the other thing too is I wish someone had told me this. Meet with a CPA, meet with a certified public accountant because they know the taxes better than anyone else. And an attorney can help you with the liability shield, but the CPA knows how taxes are going to impact your business. So, for example, I had a attorney convince me to create a corporation for my business. And then I went and met with a CPA, and she was like, you shouldn't be a corporation because you're going to spend way more money filing a separate corporate tax return and you're not going to see any of the benefits. So I had to walk back my corporation filing with the IRS and then converted into a LLC, and it was a whole mess. But that's why it's good to meet with both an attorney and a CPA so you understand all of the benefits and limitations of these different legal structures and how they might affect your business. So once you have selected your business name and your legal business entity structure type, you'll need to register it with the Minnesota Secretary of State. Businesses that are registered for the first time in the state of Minnesota are called domestic filings. So if you plan to file an LLC in the state of Minnesota, you will see an option to file a domestic LLC. Businesses that have filed in other states first would file a foreign filing. For example, I started my first business in Nebraska. I filed a domestic LLC there. And then when I moved to Minnesota, I filed a foreign LLC in the state of Minnesota because I had already filed my LLC in a different state. So again, contact a business attorney for any filing questions. If you feel confident, you can go to the Office of Minnesota Secretary of State website and you can actually file your legal structure online. Again, we recommend you meet with a business attorney, but to do it yourself, I think is like $155 to register an LLC right now. You'll immediately get an email with a PDF of your organization documents, and then you can go to the Minnesota State Tax ID, the Department of Revenue website, and register for your state tax ID. And then you can go to the irs.gov website and register for your federal employer identification number. You will need that in order to open a business checking account. And getting both tax IDs is free because everybody wants you to pay taxes. So once you get that tax ID and the federal tax ID, when you register for federal tax ID on the irs.gov website, you will also get an immediate email with a PDF including your EIN assignment. So you take that to a business banker and open a business checking account. So again, business bank accounts must be separate from personal accounts. This is so crucial. Schedule an appointment with a banker, bring your state of Minnesota filing forms and your IRS EIN confirmation letter. I also recommend just getting in touch with your banker before you go to your appointment to ask if there's any other things you need to bring to be prepared for that. Yeah, and then they can help you with your business checking account. Depending on the type of business that you have, you may need to apply for business permits or licenses. So a permit may be required for restaurants, liquor serving establishments, beauty salons, and lots of other service and hospitality businesses. A license might be required for certain professions like medical practitioners, construction companies, and other types of businesses. Insurance is a really great thing to plan for. Most businesses should have some type of business insurance. I always recommend at least getting a general liability insurance policy. Those tend to be very inexpensive and they kind of cover a broad area of issues that may come up. If you have employees, you're going to need workers' compensation insurance and unemployment insurance. If you own commercial property, you'll need insurance for that. I have business income insurance where I pay a little bit every month. And then if something happened to me where I couldn't work, I would get some of my income monthly for a period of time. There's also professional liability insurance. So, for example, as a marketing consultant, I've had professional liability insurance to help protect me in case one of my clients sues me and said that my actions have made them lose revenue for whatever reason. That can protect you there. commercial auto insurance if your business is going to own cars. Um, most most small businesses, a CPA will tell you just keep your personal business personal, not under your business, and then um, report your mileage at the end of the year on your taxes. There are reasons for having commercial autos, but generally a CPA will recommend that you not buy a car with your business unless you have like a fleet of cars or it's a crucial part of your business. You also can ask a insurance agent about policies you might need for your specific industry. I guarantee you, a insurance agent is going to have lots of suggestions for different kinds of policies you should probably have. So, if you are considering starting a business, insurance is definitely part of that risk mitigation process on top of your legal business structure's liability shield. All right, so you've written your business plan, you've done your market research and funded your business. So now it's time for you to launch. As a business in Minnesota, or as a business in the United States, you might have the opportunity to apply for or bid for government contracts. There are, in the state of Minnesota, we call them different types of disadvantaged businesses, which would be women-owned small businesses, veteran-owned or service disabled veterans. Minority-owned businesses are considered disadvantaged and might have um, a chance to get to the top of the line for a government contract. Hub zones are also historically underutilized business zones, maybe in rural areas where you might be able to take advantage of government contracts. There is a website, I can't remember what it is right now, for vendor contract bids. So if you want to go to that website, you can kind of see what kinds of bids are open. Um, Government contracts tend to be very lucrative. So depending on what type of service you provide, you might consider taking a look at that. We just chatted a little bit about socially disadvantaged businesses. And then there's lots of other resources available to you to support you on your small business journey. The Small Business Administration has an excellent website that's at sba.gov. And they have great resources. They have a business plan template, lots of great articles about different topics of small business ownership. SCORE is a mentor volunteer organization where retired or volunteer business owners will uh, donate their time to new and upcoming businesses to help them get started. Women Venture is a nonprofit in the Twin Cities that provides consulting, training, and funding for women owned businesses. And then I already mentioned Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, or SMIF. They are located in Owatonna. They're an economic development organization that provides consulting, training, and they also do loans for their small business clients. So once again, we are the Small Business Development Center. We provide high quality, confidential one-on-one consulting. We provide lots of training like tonight's presentation. And when you become a client, you have access to guidance from a team of really great business professionals. I love my colleagues. They're all excellent, very smart, and have a ton of experience and knowledge. So if you're thinking about starting your business or you have a business, and you could use some guidance, we are here for you, and our services are no cost to you. So definitely take advantage of us being here for you. In order to do that, you would need to message our program manager, Molly Byron, because you've probably already signed up to be part of this training program. So she has your information. But if you're interested in meeting with a consultant on a specific topic, you can reach out to her and tell her what you're looking for, and then she can put you in touch with one of us. Or maybe you want to meet with more than one of us. I will see clients and help them with marketing while they're working with our bookkeeping consultant, or they're working on their financial projections in order to apply for a loan. Um, we're really the best kept secret in the small business world. I will keep saying it. And again, I love this job. It's so much fun to work with small business owners. And, we're here for you. So let us help out. So that is the conclusion of Startup Smart. And if you'd like to know more about other training sessions we have coming up, or more information about the Small Business Development Center in South Central Minnesota, you can go to our website at myminnesotabusiness.com. You can email us at info@myminnesotabusiness.com, or you can visit our regional office in the Hubbard Building in Old Town Mankato at 424 North Riverfront Drive.